Hey YouTube, so this is the first video I'll have uploaded in a while. Sorry about that, guys. Want to put out some more SL content, but life gets in the way, work, whatever. But this is actually the newest addition to my collection. It is a 1988 Corvette 35th anniversary. It's actually a pretty rare car. They only made about 2,050. So it's relatively rare. I mean, you see them for sale and stuff, but numbers-wise, they did not make that many of them. So this is like my favorite C4 Corvette that's like on the normal side, so not a Callaway or a ZR1 or something of that nature. It's just a standard Corvette for the most part. It has a Z52 package, which is basically like the street performance package that you would get with an automatic. So it's got like lowered suspension. It's got a short steering rack. What else? Oh, it's got a power steering cooler, and it's also got a sports exhaust. So it's got 5 horsepower and 5 more torque than a standard 88 Vet. It's honestly a pretty nice car, and we're going to get into some of the details. So, yeah. All right, guys, so this is just a side view. As you can see, it's white paint, white rims, and a black roof. So, basically... just do a little like 360, I guess. So there's the rear. Pretty nice looking rear, right? It's got the 2 red taillights, and it's got the 3rd brake light on the roof. See on the other side, obviously the same. I think it's a great looking car. I mean, it's really striking. I get so many looks when I'm driving. There's so many people waving at me and saying hi and whatever else. It's just a great car. A lot of people bash C4 Corvettes, but they're kind of not educated. And I'll get into that too here. Let me show you guys the engine. All right, guys. So this is the motor. It is the L98 V8, which is a 350 cubic inch or 5.7 liter small block Chevy engine. So this is basically the same 350 that you got in like every Chevy from the 60s, till like, the 80s, early 90s. It's got 250 horsepower, 350 pound-feet of torque. It's an overhead cam motor. Pretty reliable, pretty simple for the most part. They generally don't have too many issues, and they're pretty simple to work on. The biggest difference between this and like maybe an original small block Chevy would be the fact that, it has fuel injection. It's got that intake system. So it's got the TPI injection, which is pretty reliable, especially for a system from the 80s. It's a very torquey motor, low end wise, which is really nice to have when you're driving, on the street and when you're in the canyons. So, when you're turning and stuff, it really gets you out of a lot of turns with its torque. Radiator's right over here with the fan. The intake is over there. You can see it's got the bowling green. The stamp that it was made in Bowling Green, Kentucky. It's got the stand over here, so that's it holds the hood up. You got your pop-ups. The valve covers look a little funky. They kind of do that with age, but it happens. So this thing has needed manifold gaskets and intake runners and stuff, or it's plenum seals to be done on the intake runners. But overall, it's been pretty reliable. It always starts. It actually gets really decent gas mileage. So this thing gets about, I was averaging like 20 for me overall. This is a mix between like highway and city driving. So not bad by any stretch, especially for a decent sized V8. Some people think these cars are slow. I don't think that they're slow. Especially not for a car from the 80s. 5.7 seconds or 5.6 seconds to 60, which is I think the fastest time they got on this, is pretty quick. Quarter miles in the low 14s, maybe mid 14s, so not slow. And this is stock. You can easily mod these cars, so they're pretty cool. I replaced the brake booster as well, and I actually replaced both of my front calipers. I did pads and rotors all around, and I replaced the front calipers because they were seizing, so that caused an issue. As you can see, there are lights over here too, so help you see at night if you're working on your car. So yeah, it's a pretty cool motor. This is before they got the LT1, so they switched to the LT1 in 92. The LT1 is more horsepower stock, a little less torquey, I think, on the low end. It's more of a top-end motor, but it's also more of a pain in the ass because you have the, the OptiSpark. So the distributor is right next to the water pump, which creates major problems when it leaks. This is a little bit more reliable, and honestly, you can get up to 300 horsepower with not that much. I mean, some exhaust, maybe some headers, some intake mods, a couple other things. But yeah, this is a pretty cool motor. I mean, 250 horsepower in 1988 was not bad, I mean, there wasn't that many cars getting over 300 horsepower. I mean, there were, but there wasn't that many. This is kind of like the dark ages of power. The 70s was worse, but power wasn't that great at this time. And another thing, actually, is funny thing is I just got a new battery yesterday, so that's nice. The battery I got in it was a little old. This car sat for a while, but it's been pretty good to me so far, and the motor is nice. It's really torquey on the low end, and yeah, so that's the motor. All right, guys, so actually, I almost forgot to add something, so I'm going to put this in the video. So people always ask me, aren't the LT1 and the L98 the same? Aren't they super different, or this, that, and the third? Okay. So this is my understanding. The L98 and the LT1 are actually very similar. I think like the blocks and the heads and a lot of that stuff is the same, right? But the LT1, I think, used reversed flow cooling, so I think it cools the heads first. So that's one of the major differences. So a lot of people consider this to be the last true small block Chevy motor. Now, I really am not a Chevy guy, so that's not really for me to determine. But I did some reading on the L98, and a lot of people were saying, that, or not just people, people who, a lot of educated Chevy guys refer to this as the last true small block Chevy motor. That's nothing against LT1s. I've actually driven a C4 with an LT1, and it was a great motor. So both are really cool, and I think both are very, very good motors. And if you have a Corvette with either, you're in business. So here's some of the interior. It's really not in that good a shape. To be honest with you, that's the one thing that this car has major issues with. But you know what? It's actually not that expensive to replace some of this stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing that, getting new door inserts, seat covers, and a new wheel. And I'll be in business. I mean, the rest of the interior is in pretty good shape. I got my my Haynes repair manual for the Corvette. I'm going to read up on that. But here, let's show you guys inside the interior. So there it is here, and then I'm going to get into it. All right, guys, so I'm in the interior, and here, let me just start it up for you guys. It's got the really cool digital dash. I don't know if you guys can see that. Probably not. There you go. It's a little dim. Probably got to do some of the lights and stuff. Put up those headlights. Exhaust is not that loud. It's loud enough, and it sounds pretty good from the inside. Got a nice little rumble, but nothing crazy. There are the headlights when they're up. Look pretty good, So there you go. A lot of people are super uneducated when it comes to these cars. They handle super well. They were dominating in racing back when they were new, and they actually got banned from a lot of races. So they actually had to make their own races with just Corvettes. So yeah, this thing's got, motorsport pedigree, looks the business. It has, a lot. It's a really, really cool car for the price. I saw a review, I think it was an 88 or an 89 Z51 Corvette versus a 911. It was like the top 911 that wasn't a turbo. Might have been like it was like some type of sport model. I can't exactly remember. I'm sure I could find the article. But basically, they were saying, the 911 was slightly faster in a straight line, which I'm not 100% surprised by. But around the track, the Z51 Corvette just smacked the 911. And I really don't find that hard to believe. I mean, this car specifically actually has a short rack. And it's a bit of a bitch to parallel park, and it's kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. If you're in tight spaces, so let's say if you got to switch a lane or you got to get in between cars, sometimes it's a bit of a pain in the ass. But my God, does it handle well. This car is just, I know a lot of people who actually think Corvettes don't handle well. I don't know where they got that from. But you drive one of these and it really lets you know what it's about. I mean, so before this, it was the C3 Corvette, which is kind of more of a muscle car. And yeah, the C3s didn't handle great, but the C4 was the first Corvette car that was actually a world-class handling car and really walked the walk when it came to just overall performance. And even in a straight line, it's not that slow. I mean, 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds is not slow, especially for, the late to mid 80s. So yeah, guys, and a lot of people, they think of the 84 Corvettes with the Crossfire injection. And, those cars only had 205 horsepower. And yeah, they're not that fast. But this is a way different car. It's got the TPI injection, which is a pretty good injection system for the 80s. It's pretty reliable. The horsepower numbers aren't crazy. But, some stuff that you can do to get an L98, the power up, which I have not done yet, is, you can delete the smog pump. You can get rid of, there's this Frisbee disc. It's not really a Frisbee disc, but it's like a black disc in the middle that takes away some horsepower. You can do some intake mods and some exhaust mods. And also, if you get some headers for it, it'll definitely get the horsepower up and the responsiveness, But it's a small block Chevy, so it's really, really easy, to modify. And, another cool thing is, like I said, this is the last true small block Chevy that they had in a Vette. An LT1 is slightly different. Even though they're very similar, it has a reverse flow cooling. So I think it cools the heads first. I think that's how it works. I don't exactly know. But I just love the pre-facelift Vette look. It looks so 80s. And I love the interior. Some people have asked me, what do you prefer, the SL or this? Well, the SL is like, my first love. So that car is going to be really, really hard to beat. But this car really complements the SL well, and the fact that it handles better than the SL, and it's got more low end. An SL is really a top end car. So, on the low end, it's not bad. It's still very torquey. It's got 350 pound-feet of torque, or 345, but it's really more of a top end car. This is more of a low end car. So, if you got to get 0 to 60, this will definitely be a little faster. Not by much, but it'll be faster. Also, this car is super light. I think it's only about 3,200 pounds or 3,300 pounds. So it's a pretty light car as a whole. So the handling really is complemented by that. Like I said, the short rack. The suspension is a little stiff, but you know what? It is what it is. It's not an everyday car. If I want to go take out something comfortable, I got other cars to drive. But if I want a car that handles well and I want to take something to the canyons and look cool, the C4 Corvette is a shoe-in. Anybody has any questions, feel free to message me. I have my Instagram in my about, so go on Instagram and message me about it. And thank you guys for your time. Hope you appreciate the video, and leave any comments or questions, and like it up if you like the video, and thank you for your time.